bulletins, newsletters, educative and informative programs, and lots more. West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM. It's you speaking.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Mixed reactions trail Niger's socio-economic record 3 years after the military took over.
Where the promises have clearly fallen short is in economic development. There are no factories or projects that will make us economically independent.
A high-level conference on governance, critical minerals and conflict in Africa gets underway in Accra, Ghana. Africa's oldest independent republic, Liberia, commemorates 179th anniversary amid economic hardship and calls for reform.
Every time I go there, I don't make money. People don't buy.
A lot of people are suffering the issue of the economy, the issue of job. Why can't we deal with the economy?
And Senegal's President Diomaye Faye creates a new Republican Party, formalizing the political split with longtime ally Ousmane Sonko. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for being with us. Newslink begins in Niger, where the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland marked its third anniversary on July 26, 2026. CNSP is the transitional military authority that overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum 3 years ago on claims of a deteriorating security situation. But despite the junta's promises of change, many Nigerians say they have yet to meet their expectations on security, governance, and economic recovery. Christopher Atijo has the details.
Niger's leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, has given a lengthy interview to the national broadcaster to present his record after 3 years in power. During the more than 1 hour interview, the head of state addressed several key issues, with the security situation within the alliance of the Sahel State AES taking center stage.
The attacks will continue. Only our determination and our resolve to compel France and Europe to change the way they view Africans will bring these attacks to an end, just as other nations have succeeded in Asia and closer to us in Algeria.
However, many Nigerians appeared unconvinced, saying the president's remarks did not fully address their concerns or meet the expectations of a population hoping for more tangible results after 3 years of military rule.
Where the promises have clearly fallen short is in economic development. We haven't seen any real progress. There are no factories, no major industries or projects that will make us economically independent. Today, we are seeing a renewed sense of patriotism that this transition has brought to our country. Nigerians have come to realize that the development of our nation can only be achieved through our own efforts. It's obvious that not everyone is satisfied. You can't expect every Nigerian to be happy. There will always be people who are unhappy, especially those who benefited from the old system and its inequalities. Today, as we strive for greater fairness and equality, I believe we are halfway toward the progress this country needs.
For ordinary citizens, the priorities remain clear: improving security amid continued terrorist attacks and reviving an economy affected by challenges, including the prolonged closure of the Niger-Benin border.
Christopher, teacher, with a report from the Army correspondent Yakuba Habibullah. Still in the Sahel, the European Union has appointed a new special envoy to the region to engage with countries and coordinate the bloc's diplomatic, security and development efforts. Danish diplomat Birgit Nigard Makosen will lead the EU's political discussions across Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, Mauritania and neighboring states affected by the region's instability. Makosen, who will also assume office on September 1, replaces Portugal's João Gomes Cravino. Usma Uma tells us more.
Brigitte Nigard Marcusen's mandate includes promoting political dialogue, conflict prevention, regional stability, cross-border cooperation and economic development in partnership with regional governments, African institutions, the United Nations, and other international actors. She will also oversee the implementation of the EU's revised Sahel strategy adopted in November 2025, which prioritizes diplomacy, human security, economic opportunities, tackling organized crime and addressing the root causes of migration. Marcusen succeeds João Gomes Cravinho, who was appointed in late 2024 to help reshape the EU's policy toward a region transformed by military takeovers in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The withdrawal of the three resulted in the emergence of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES Confederation. A seasoned Africa specialist, Marcusen has served as Denmark's special representative for the Sahel and the Great Lakes since January 2025. She previously headed the European Union delegation to the African Union and served in senior roles at the European External Action Service. Until her new appointment, Marcusen was Denmark's ambassador to Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and the Central African Republic.
Usma Uma with that report. Elsewhere, Liberia is commemorating its 179th Independence Day amid mounting economic pressures and growing social challenges. While the official state ceremony is set for today in Buchanan, Grand-Bassa County, Liberians at home and abroad observed the day on Sunday, July 26. President Joseph Boakai, senior government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, and other guests are expected to grace Monday's event. WDR's Abraham Parker reports.
This celebration comes as many Liberians say rising prices, unemployment and high cost of living continue to place significant pressure on households. Business owners and market traders also report a decline in commercial activity, saying reduced purchasing power has slowed transactions and affected sales.
Every time I go there, I don't make money. People don't buy.
A lot of people are suffering the issue of the economy, the issue of job. Why can't I deal with the economy? Look at the market.
Human rights lawyer Tiawan Gongolo has criticized the government's decision to hold the official celebration in Buchanan, arguing that the resources spent on the event could have been redirected toward addressing the country's economic difficulties and improving the welfare of struggling citizens.
Rwanda gained independence 119 years after Liberia independence. It is a middle-income country today, and Liberia is among the 15 poorest countries of the world. Shame on them.
Meanwhile, the Student Unification Party, a camp-based political movement, has announced plans to stage a peaceful protest during the official celebrations, saying the demonstration aims to draw both national and international attention to what it describes as worsening economic hardship in Liberia. The government, however, maintains that it is committed to improving the lives of Liberians. Liberia, Africa's oldest independent republic, declared its independence on July 26, 1847. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, as global demand for critical minerals continues to rise, African leaders, policymakers, and experts are meeting in Accra, Ghana to examine how the continent's vast mineral wealth can drive development without fueling conflict and instability. The three-day high-level conference on governance, critical minerals, and conflict in Africa is bringing together government, civil society, mining communities, and international partners to explore how stronger governance can transform critical minerals into a catalyst for peace, accountability, and inclusive growth. Our correspondent Nadi Dititi is at the conference and joins us now with the latest. Hello, Nadi Dititi, and welcome to the news.
Hi, Augustine. Thank you.
All right, give us the atmosphere at the event. How is it like?
Well, there are different stakeholders currently in the conference room. At the moment, there's a panel discussion underway, and they are sharing their views on various issues regarding mining and how governance is going to serve as the connection between the people and these mineral resources to ensure that the country, the various African countries, get the maximum benefit from their mineral resources, basically. So at the moment, the stakeholders are seated and they are exchanging ideas while the panel conversations also continue.
Would you mind explaining some of the key issues, as you've already begun, that will take center stage or dominate this conference?
All right, so with this particular conference, the main focus is to pay attention to governance, not just the availability of the resources, because the belief is that once you get the governance right, that's what is going to serve as the link between whether the country develops or otherwise. When the governance is good, most likely are going to get a better outcome. And so primarily that is what the focus of this conference is, as to how we are going to improve the governance and ensure that, the continent as a whole benefits from this, because, the questions on the minds of the analysts, or what some of the answers that we are seeking to get from this are that, what would exactly Africa's critical mineral wealth advance democratic governance, because a lot of the times we talk about how rich Africa is, but really, does it lead to the transformation of lives? So that is where governance comes in. And so that's the main focus, to understand how we're going to improve governance to ensure that the people benefit from this, and essentially. Also, there'll be a focus on the local communities, particularly those in the mining areas. How are they going to be sharing in the economic benefits of these resources that we have here in Ghana? For instance, some of our mining areas they're nothing to write home about, and constantly we talk about what exactly needs to be done to ensure that these areas are also benefiting from it. Elsewhere, you go to other countries, in other places where there is mining, there is something visible to show in some of these areas in terms of infrastructure, jobs, social services, among other things. So that is what we'll also be looking at here at the conference. And then the participants will also be discussing, formalizing artisanal mining, tackling illegal mining, which is a menace here in Ghana especially, and strengthening environmental safeguards.
Well, Nadi, thank you. We will keep you posted, and as the day goes on, we will also follow up to know what the communities are saying, including those leaders at the event. Thanks so much for bringing us the update.
Thank you, Augustine.
Well, that's Nadi there bringing us an update about an ongoing conference on critical minerals as the issue continues to rise across Africa. Meanwhile, the government of Ghana is resuming the next phase of its emergency evacuation of citizens from South Africa following renewed xenophobic attacks targeting migrants in the country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says about 1,000 Ghanaians are expected to be flown home in batches beginning Sunday, July 26, with priority given to the most vulnerable people. Well, elsewhere, just days after President Bola Tinubu approved a major expansion of the Nigerian army, questions are growing over whether the ambitious plan can be effectively funded and sustained. The government says the creation of 4 new divisions and the recruitment of 28,000 additional soldiers will bolster the fight against insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping. However, analysts warn that troop numbers alone will not guarantee better security. WADR's Yechenu Saseto reports.
The Nigerian government says expanding the army will strengthen the country's ability to respond to growing security threats across the country. The plan includes creating 4 new military divisions in Benue, Kwara, Taraba and Edo states, recruiting 28,000 additional soldiers and increasing investment in military hardware, operational readiness and troop welfare. However, National Secretary of the Retired Members of the Nigerian Army, Roy Okidebe, has questioned whether the expansion can be sustained.
Without implementing all the mentioned benefits, and you're talking about 100,000 naira for a soldier, which an Okada man can make in a week, where is the attractiveness? So if you don't have the attractiveness and you put a timeline for September and December, are you not joking?
Okidebe also cautions that the large financial expenditure could expose the program to corruption and mismanagement if strict oversight measures are not enforced.
This kind of thing, we get quick signatories, quick disbursement of funds, because it is an avenue to divert funds, to be corrupt and implement corrupt tendencies.
The Nigerian Army is currently estimated to have between 140,000 and 160,000 personnel. Even though no deadline was announced, the expansion, once completed, is expected to boost troop deployment against insurgents, bandits, kidnappers, and other armed groups operating across multiple regions. For WADR, Yechenu Saseto in Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink live on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and worldwide at WADR.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Mixed reactions trailed Niger's socio-economic record 3 years after military takeover. A high-level conference on governance, critical minerals and conflict in Africa gets underway in Accra, Ghana. Africa's oldest independent republic, Liberia, commemorates 179th anniversary amid economic hardship and calls for reform. Still ahead in the news, Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye creates a new Republican Party, formalizing a political split with longtime ally Ousmane Sonko. We also have the press review, guest interview and the sports. Please stay with us.
From the heart of Nigerian politics, this is Yechenu Saseto in Abuja, and you are listening to WADR 94.9 FM Dakar.
Thank you for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Here in Senegal, the creation of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's new Republican Party follows a familiar pattern in the country's political history over the past 2 decades. New political movements have repeatedly emerged from internal divisions, leadership struggles, and the search for new political identities. The trend gained momentum in 2000 when Abdoulaye Wade and his Senegalese Democratic Party, the PDS, ended 4 decades of Socialist Party rule. The victory ushered in a new era of liberal politics, but also triggered fresh rivalries and breakaways within the ruling camp. Abdoulaye Hassan brings us this analysis.
At the end of Wade's presidency, several key figures who had once worked closely with him broke away to establish their own political movement. Among them was former Prime Minister Idrissa Seck, who created the Remy Party in a bid to gain greater political influence beyond Wade's leadership. Another such figure was Macky Sall, who resigned as president of the National Assembly following disagreements with Abdoulaye Wade and later founded his own party, the Alliance for the Republic (APR), in December 2008. The party quickly became a dominant force in Senegalese politics, winning the presidency in 2012 and governing the country for 12 years. However, the APR era also witnessed the rise of new opposition movements. The biggest political shift came with the emergence of Ousmane Sonko's Pastef party, which attracted a large number of young voters with promises of political renewal, economic sovereignty, and institutional reform. The new political movement helped propel Bassirou Diomaye Faye to the presidency in 2024. After 2 years in power, Diomaye Faye announced the creation of KIRAI, the Republican Patriots Party. The formation of his party over the weekend followed growing political differences between him and his mentor, Ousmane Sonko, the former Prime Minister and current President of the National Assembly. From Wad PDS to Macky Sall's APR and now Diomaye Faye's Kirai, Senegal's political history continues to be shaped by alliances, breakaways, and the search for a new democratic identity. Observers argue that the challenge for these parties goes beyond personality-driven politics. They say the priority should be building strong institutions capable of surviving changes in leadership.
Abdullahi Hassan with that analysis on Senegal leadership struggles and the search for new political identities.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Now, let's rejoin Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja for the press review.
Greetings. We begin from the leadership newspaper. Police launch intensive rescue operation for abducted Kebbi High Court judge. Meanwhile, in the Daily Post, troops of Operation Hadinkai have arrested a soldier declared wanted by the Nigerian army over his alleged involvement in supplying military uniforms to terrorist groups operating in the northeast. Let's take a look at Vanguard. Budget Office of the Federation has explained that the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, which the presidency declared as fake and is currently under investigation, originated from the last administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari. Also in the Vanguard, Pension Commission reveals that more than 90% of informal sector workers who enrolled in the personal pension plan have abandoned the scheme as subscribers blame worsening economic hardship for their inability to make regular pension contributions. And now the Nation newspaper. Senate and the House of Representatives start moves to harmonize the differences in the state police bill they passed. And lastly, in the Punch, 3 killed, 2 injured in fresh Benue headsmen attack. Finally, federal government budgets nearly 1 trillion naira for empowerment, SUVs, amid rising borrowing pressure. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
Yechenu Sasetu with the press review from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment this afternoon focuses on Senegal, and Dr. Ibrahim Khan is our guest, who is a Senegalese governance expert. In this interview, Dr. Khan examines President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's decision to launch a new political party and what it means for Senegal's evolving political landscape. He also discusses how the move formalizes the political split between President Faye and his longtime ally, Ousmane Sonko, and explores the potential implications for the country's governance and political future.
Well, the first thing to say is that this is not new in Senegal. Maybe the difference between this and previous separation in the same party is that this one, the person who is creating a new party is the person in power, the person in charge of the republic. And now we are seeing a new strategy because the new president wants to have a political party that will allow him not only to participate in the next local election, probably in February next year, but also to prepare him for next presidential election, which is scheduled, I think, for 2029. It will not be an easy task for the president because the person who is in the other side is very, very popular in Senegal at the moment. And two, I think what is also very important is that the president himself seems to have forgotten a number of principles that he implemented at the beginning of his presidency, because now he's going to be head of state and the head of a political party. You recall that the first decision he has taken when he was declared president was to really resign from all its position within the PASTEF party.
Announcing the creation of a political party, would that surmount to him being the head of the party, or could there be a leadership where you have the chairman of the party and then maybe heading towards election before you find a standard bearer?
Yes, on Saturday what we have seen is the one being the head of the party. Is the one being promoted, is the one being at the forefront. So nobody talked about the coordinator, because the coordinator is just the coordinator. Given the peculiarity of this creation, I think what we need to wait for is the 8th of August, which is precisely the date where the party will be formally created, and we will see who will be nominated at the head of the party. But so far, he is the biggest figure of the party, and that is itself is problematic, because this is the same person who 2 years ago decided to renounce, to resign from all his position within PASTEF. So this is something to wait and see.
Now, you stated earlier that this announcement of a political party, especially by a president or a sitting government, is not the first of its kind. But looking at Senegal's political history since the 2000s, why have internal divisions and leadership rivalries repeatedly given rise to new political parties and movements in the country?
Because simply our political system forces any politician to have an institution that is behind him, and that an institution that he can use to maintain himself or to reach all the biggest position in the country. You know, Macky Sall was in the same situation, and I can tell you how many political parties were created out of PDS.
This decision formalizes the political split between President Diomaye Faye and his political mentor Ousmane Sonko, President of the National Assembly. But what implications could this have on the governance of the state?
Since the sacking of the prime minister, of the former prime minister, it was a kind of loose agreement between themselves to not attack each other. But now that the divorce is now real, I think you will see more and more attack between themselves. And the president even started on Saturday by saying that he will no longer accept any disruption coming from a political party. That is a message to his former mentor. And I think from now we can say it's really the total divorce between the two people. And we will see what that divorce will mean in the functioning of the institution.
You just listened to Dr. Ibrahim Khan, a Senegalese governance expert. And in sports, Algeria began their Total Energies CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2026 campaign with an assured 2-0 victory over Senegal in the opening Group A match on Saturday evening in Rabat. A first-half penalty from Marine Dafoul and a late strike by Melissa Berry secured the 3 points for the North Africans, who produced a disciplined display to claim an important early advantage in the race for the knockout stages. Also, host Morocco opened their campaign with a dominant 4-0 victory over Kenya in Group A. Morocco began with an interesting run so far. The Atlas Lionesses produced a dominant display from the opening whistle to the final minute, securing all 3 points with an emphatic performance in front of their home supporters to kick off their Group A campaign in grand style. In boxing news, Anthony Joshua won his comeback against Christian Pringa of a second round knockout over the weekend. The 36-year-old was making his return to the ring ahead of a dream match up against former heavyweight champion Tyson Fury this year. While no date or venue has been set, speculation is rife. On top of that, the two British boxers will meet at Wembley Stadium in November. That's the latest in the world of sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Joacino Capagomis for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to News.